yeah, just a short explanation as to why I'm making this little film. A few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I bought this B.S.A Barracuda, and it's in quite original condition, but it didn't come with any history at all. And I don't like that. I'm a guy who likes to have history. I believe these bikes and old cars and things like that deserve to have a history with them all the time. You know, things like, where was it bought? Who owned it? What part of the country did it go to? Where has it been on its travels? It could have been anywhere. What kind of work's been done on it? Major work, minor work? Has it been reliable? Has it been unreliable? All of that is part of a history of a vintage vehicle. And as I say, this motorcycle came with nothing. So this little film is part of the start of its history from now, because I can't find out anything else. I'm documenting what I'm doing to it, is I'm just examining it and having a look at it and getting one or two new parts, hopefully right up until the time I can run it on the road. You know, I'm a great believer, for anybody who watches this out there, if you've got a vintage motorcycle or a vintage car, you're not really the owner. At the minute, it's just in your custody, and at some stage it's going to go on to somebody else. And wouldn't it be great if that next person had every owner's history and what they did with the bike? I think it would be fantastic. That's my way of recording things for the future. So that's what this film's all about, and hopefully anybody who watches it, you'll get a little bit out of it. Thank you. Okay, I've got the C25 up on the ramp here. It's a little bit of an enigma to me. I'm not really sure how to tackle it. I must admit that a slight disappointment when I picked it up. I expected a bike that I could start and run up and down the street, but apparently the fiberglass tank hasn't been lined. So although I did hear it start with a small amount of petrol in and it sounded fine, I never got the chance to have a run on it. I certainly won't be doing a full-on restoration. You know, I'm not chucking lots and lots of money at it. Only time will tell whether I've made a good decision. I have seen some of these Barracudas for sale for just over £2,000 with nice chrome wheels, whereas these have got painted wheels. This one, you know, and that's £600 straight away. I don't know what the engine's like, although as I said, I did hear it running and it sounded reasonably okay. So I think the first thing to do is I'm going to get the tank lined and then see if I can take it for a run. In the meantime, you know, I'll probably take little bits off. I'll take the front wheel off, have a look at the bearings. I'll check the steering bearings, just little things. I'll maybe take one or two things off, and nothing major. I'm not going to strip the engine, give things a bit of a clean up, and then hopefully the tank will come back lined and I'll be able to put petrol in and give it a try and see where we are from there. I've no idea how original it is. It's a real puzzle, you know, the Barracuda and the C25. I know the Barracuda was just a short production bike. It became the Starfire. What is original on this, I don't know. It certainly hasn't been restored, but I mean, it's got different crankcases, because Nigel has sent me the original crankcases. So why somebody would put the other crankcases on, I haven't got a clue, because I don't know anything about these bikes. You know, and the thing that nags me is that rear number plate. I don't like that number plate. I don't know why. I just don't like the shape of it. I'd like a square number plate, so I'll get one of them. According to the Speedo, there's only about 2,600 miles, so there's obviously something amiss there. But we'll just have to see how things go, and we'll take it from there. I'll try and document a lot of the stuff, more for my benefit, so I can remember what the heck I've done. and how I've done it. So, to be continued. First thing I'm going to do is remove this mudguard. So I'm going to just take those 4 bolts out there, and there's 4 bolts out there. That's the way it is. Fairly simple, so hopefully that'll be okay. Well, that's the front wheel off. Fairly easy, just 4 bolts, and there's a mudguard there. It's a bit of a mess inside. It obviously hasn't been cleaned for many years, so that's one job to do. Right, the mudguard stay, front mudguard stay, that's got 2 holes in it, is the second stay from the front, the one with 2 holes in it, with the lugs pointing towards the rear. The next thing I'm going to do is take this this battery off. What a piddly little battery this thing is. I think it's negative earth, but there we go. The that's what the fused terminal is on the negative side anyway, so that's what we're going to do now. We'll take the battery off. Those are the old nuts and bolts of the mudguard stay, and that is my box of assorted taps and dies. The thing I have to find very confusing, all the different sizes, but that is one of the bolts, and I've just found a die that fits it, and it's 5/16 National Fine, so I can now run that through the threads of all the old bolts and clean them up. Well, the battery's off and it's on charge, and if we just move very quickly across to the Optimate, it's kind of not doing very well. It's very deeply discharged, so I hope it's going to recover, otherwise that's something else on the list. Well, the plot thickens just a little bit. I've been up to see my very good friend John Moss Robinson, and he's going to try and look into the relining of this fiberglass tank. Meanwhile, he very kindly lent me a C15 tank to try and put on here, so at least I could start it and give it a bit of a run. But unfortunately, the C15 tank doesn't fit, so I'll have to take that back. So I've got the seat off, and I've got the fiberglass petrol tank off, which is here, and I'm going to look into getting this relined somehow. I'd like to keep the same tank and get it done, but I want it done properly. So meanwhile, I'm going to remove the wheel. I'm going to take the controls off and the headlight and everything, and give them all a good clean because they haven't been cleaned properly, and maybe lubricate the cables properly. So that's what my next job is. I'm going to take the brake cable off, and as you see, the brake cable comes down there. It runs up in between the forks, round the back of the headlight there, and up to the control position. I've got a terrible memory, that's what I've got to do this for. Well, that's the front wheel off. Kind of needs a little bit of cleaning up to it, really. I think it's been standing for a while. And that's the brake plate, very much corroded. That is the position of the brake lever. So if I turn that over, you'll see that it's very much lines up this way on with there, because I'm going to take it off, lubricate it. I'm going to clean it as best I can. There's the brake linings. They've still got a fair bit of wear on them. It's not in the best of condition, but I'll clean it up as best I can. That side as well, I mean, you can see it's really bad, but I ain't restoring it. I'll clean it and protect it. I'm not painting it either, but I'll put something on it to protect it. So yeah, let's get started on the front wheel. Got a new tyre on it anyway. Well, I've removed the brake plate. There it is there, and as you can see, the cam is absolutely, that is bone dry. It's never been lubricated for years, as is inside the hole. So I'm quite pleased I've taken it off, because you know it certainly needed a little bit of attention. So yeah, the finish on it mightn't be very good, but at least it's going to be working mechanically when I've done it. On this particular setup, that is the way the brake arm goes, as opposed to that way, which has a little bit of chrome in the middle there. But that is the way it's come off, just so we can put it back together in exactly the same way. I've just sent away to Floor Liner for a special kit for fiberglass tanks, to line this tank out. In the meantime, I've just cleaned round the surface here because it was a bit rusty, and I've put some metal treatment on it. So the tank's ready, and just waiting for the kit to come. Whilst I've been working on the front wheel, it really needs to have a new rim and be re-spoked, but at the minute that's a lot of money, so I'm just trying to clean up the spokes as best I can. It's not a brilliant job. I'm just about to take the bearing out. Soon as I've got this far, I'm going to take the front bearing out. It feels okay, but I'm just going to grease it up again. Well, I've refitted the front wheel and the brake cable. Everything seems to be fine. I've had the headlight off, and I've had a look inside, and all the connections seems to be great. And as you can see there, I've taken the speedometer off. The speedometer is here. I took it off because it's not really central in this housing, and it's not very good, and there's no bulb to light or fitting to light the speedometer up, so that's something else I've got to address. But I'll square it up in its housing, and then I'll put it back on. So yep, gradually making progress. I'm going to put the front mudguard on again shortly. I've just been dressing up the stairs a little bit because they did have a little bit of rust on them. Speedometer, that way where you can read it, turn it round, and that's where the bracket goes. So the bracket goes on the bottom. I've just taken the rear brake arm off in preparation to removing the rear wheel. For some strange reason, there, it's got a cable tie, and these adjusting nuts here have been painted over and haven't been used for a long time. So once again, just a good clean up. I'll free all those nuts off, and a good grease up, and it'll be ready to put back on. I'm going to take the rear wheel off first and have a look at everything in there, the linings and the bearings. Yes, just realised the little pin that you can see in the picture that secured the brake rod to the brake pedal, and on this particular bike was fastened with a cable tie. The reason it was fastened with a cable tie is it has two clip lugs that clip on the brake arm to hold it in position, and one of the lugs is missing, so somebody's put a cable tie on to hold it in place. So I really need to get one of these things, one of these pins, but at least we've found out now. I'll just have a look at that wheel before I take it off. I've taken the chain off there. It's quite stiff. It looks in good nick, but it wants a damn good clean. there's just a plain nut on that end on top of the adjuster. I've tried to take off the brake plate stay arm there, and yeah, this one came off okay, but this one's just turning round and round, so maybe I'll get to that when I can take the wheel off. On this side we've got the speedometer, the spacer, the adjuster, and of course the shaft, so we'll take that out now. Well, that's the rear wheel off. The brake plate is the brake lining and shoes inside. The bit of rust, a bit of water damage. I think it's been standing for quite some time with water inside of it. And also you can see the inside of the brake drum needs a good clean up. I'm pleased I took it off to have a look. I'll sort all that out. And there we go. That's the rear wheel off. Right, well, I've managed to get the back wheel back on. I've cleaned everything up. I've had the chain off, thoroughly degreased it and cleaned it, and I'll lube it again shortly. All the brakes have been out because the brakes were quite seized. They obviously hadn't been used for a while. The brake rod, as I said earlier, the security pin there was fastened by a cable tie. I couldn't get my hands on one, so I've had to make one. I've made a bolt, and I've put a bit of locking wire round here, drilled a hole in the end, and put a bit of locking wire on that. So the quickly detachable wheel is back in. I'm just finishing putting it in there now, as you can see. So I'll get it in, get it all lined up, get the silencer on, because in a few days' time I will be putting the petrol tank back on, and then hopefully I can give it a run. The tank is lined. It took a good hour to do it. You have to keep swilling this stuff about, and now it has to cure, and I think it takes about 7 days to cure. I think the instructions said 7 days before you put any petrol in, and then hopefully we'll be ready to go. Just a little bit of a fiddly job today. I've been resetting the stoplight switch, so that works properly now. And what I've decided to do was I've taken the number plate off, because I'm going to eventually try and clean up this mudguard as best I can. But I wasn't really happy with the number plate, because the one on the right is kind of a new copy that was stuck over the top of the one on the left, and I rather like the original one on the left. I'm trying to keep as much originality as I can, but because there's been holes drilled, extra holes drilled up here, I'm now setting about trying to fill them in and try to put blanking plates on the back and a bit of filler very, very carefully, so I can retain the patina of the number plate. Hopefully that's what I'm trying to do anyway. It'll take us a while, but you know, it should look good when it's finished. I'm going to remove the rear mudguard. It's not in the best of condition, but I'd like to clean it up as best I can. So I'm going to take it off to do that. And you know, these bolts, they're all new ones, and I've got some old stuff, so I'm going to see if I can put some old bolts on. Maybe they look a bit more period. Well, there we have it. The rear mudguard is off. Not in the best of condition, but it's original. So I'm going to try and clean it up as best I can. I'm going to try and replace some of these nuts and bolts with more age-related ones. to see what they look like, and then we'll get on with the next stage. Well, there we are, the mudguard cleaned up and put back on again, and I've managed to find a few older boards just to make it a bit more period. I've got the number plate there ready to go back on, so we're kind of getting there with the cycle parts. In a few days time, the tank, I can put the tank on. The lining is hardening at the minute. I can't put petrol in until that's done, and then I'll get the tank back on. And we're getting there. I still need to try and get my hands on a chain guard though. It's so difficult. Well, I thought I would take the handlebars off and the controls and give them a bit of a clean up, because they're a little bit grubby. So I'm going to give them a clean up, and as I'm coming to disconnect them, I'm just realising that the clutch lever here is the wrong lever. You can see the gap where the cable goes in is on the top. That's actually a brake lever. That should go on that way on the other side. So I've actually got to try and source a proper clutch lever now. This one's just for information only. It's the clutch cable that you see there. I'm going to take it off and lubricate it, and it's just to show the root of the clutch cable. It's just coming over the top there, and it's going underneath the horn, and it comes from underneath the horn down there, straight round and straight into the clutch mechanism there. So that's quite straightforward. Right, speedo cable comes up the top there, down behind the headlight, around the back, and it clips onto the front down tube. There's two clips there, and then it goes down the down tube and right along the back there into the speedo. Difficult to see, but that's the route for it. Well, the floor lining that was used to do this tank, you can just see a little bit of white on there, is now cured after 7 days, and it forms a very hard coating inside the tank. I had plugs in the petrol tap holes that were protecting the threads, and when I took these plugs out, there's lumps of the lining behind that were quite solid. So my very good friend John Moss Robinson, who runs the Just B.S.A website, he lives very close to me, and he's done lots of great work for me, helped me out with it, and he drilled these petrol tap holes out. We used about 4 different size drills. If you try to drill it all in one, it could be a disaster. So starting off with a very small drill, pilot hole, and then we gradually increased it till we got to the size of the thread, very, very carefully, and then he ran a tap through it to tap whatever residue was still left inside, and that allows the thread of the petrol tap, to go back in again. So that's a great job done, and we'll get on putting the tank together. That's the petrol tank back together. Petrol taps fitted in. The filler cap has been refitted. Yeah, quite pleased with that. It's starting to look quite nice. I've drained the oil from the tank and just put the drain plug back in to stop it dripping, actually, because the main oil send and return pipes needed replacing. So I've managed to take them off. They were really difficult to get off. I had to cut them off, actually, and that's one of them there. So I'm just waiting if a new one's coming, and I'll put them back on, and hopefully that'll stop the little bit of an oil leak, hopefully. I've come to a little bit of a halt with the Barracuda at the moment because I'm waiting of different bits and pieces coming on. I'm waiting of oil pipes coming. I've waited 10 days for them, and as I've been getting into the bike, I've been finding out one or two little things. It hasn't been used for 13 years, this bike. In fact, it's only done 7 miles in 13 years. And as I get into it, I realise there's been a lack of maintenance to it. But I'm waiting for the oil pipes, I'm waiting for lights, warning lights for the headlamp. I'm waiting the speedometer. The speedometer was completely wrecked. The cable was snapped. So little things like that, you look at them and you think they look good, but it's only when you take them to bits you find out they're not really working. The tank I lined a little while ago, as I mentioned earlier on in this video, but I put petrol in it yesterday for the first time, and touch wood, it seems to be petrol tight, and that seems to be okay. So when I get these next few bits and pieces, when I get the oil pipes, I'll get some oil in, and I'm going to try and get it off the ramp before I do anything else. Get it out the front. I know that the bike runs, but I'd love to start it, and I just want to go up and down the street and make sure all the gears are there, because I haven't had the opportunity to do that. And then when that's over, I'm waiting of a chain guard. The chain guard was a nightmare to try and source. Eventually, I've bought a one, or a part of a one, from a guy in Australia. It's cost me about £50 with postage and packaging, and when I do get it, I'm going to have to take it to a fabricator because it does need a little bit of a repair. But I haven't been able to find one anywhere at all. So when that comes, then we'll get on with that next bit, and I'm really looking forward to getting this little baby out on the road and giving it a run. This is the SRM magnetic sump plate that came this morning. It has a magnetic drain bolt which collects swarf from the engine oil, and it's very, very useful. I'm waiting for some studs to fit in the crankcase because the SRM kit comes with Allen bolts, which I don't like to directly bolt into the crankcase in case there's a possibility you might strip them. So I've sent away some proper studs to go in the crankcase so the plate can be fixed on with nuts and spring washers rather than bolting it directly into the crankcase, which does carry a risk of stripping the crankcase threads. Well, because it was such a lovely day, I thought I'm going to get the Barracuda off the ramp. I managed to get some headlamp clips, so I put them in. She still hasn't got a speedo, and she still hasn't got a chain guard or a front mudguard stay, but I thought I'll put her outside and I'll start her up, because I've never even tried to start her, and I'll give her a run down the street. So petrol in, tried to start her, and I cannot get her started. I don't know whether I just haven't got the technique or what. So unfortunately it's back on the ramp, carburetor off, and have a good look. I know there's a spark, but I can't start her for some reason. I could have only taken her up and down the street anyway, because I haven't got a speedo or any other things, but a bit of a disappointment because it's such a nice day, but such is life.